Hi, my name is Paul Sotheby, and I'd like to tell you about something that changed my life. I was about ready to walk out on my Christianity, and I decided not to because of what I'm about to tell you. Um, I can remember, let me just preface, I'll tell you a little bit about how it was for me growing up and around a Christian mother. My mother's awesome. She is an amazing woman, and she's, to me, is a real Christian. But I remember going to, she'd take us, she got divorced from my father. My father had an alcoholic problem and there were other issues going on, and she divorced him. I think it was the right thing to do, but I didn't understand what was going on at that time. And it hurt, not having my dad around. But I remember her taking me to different churches. I remember going forward as a small child, asking Jesus into my heart. I remember being in a small apartment. I believe we were in Mountain View, and hearing my mother in the next room crying out to God. I mean, every night she was just praying and crying. I didn't understand what she was going through. I didn't understand the pressures that she was feeling, perhaps even culturally, for a divorced woman, 50 years ago, what that was like, what the social impact, what people thought of a divorced woman. I remember talking at a job I was at with another lady who was similar in age, and she talked about how her mother divorced her father because he was abusive, and her mother was considered an adulterer for that. That was the cultural frame of reference back then. So I think my mom went through a lot of different things that I didn't understand at the time. But I heard her crying in the next room, crying out to God. It was just annoying. Finally, it dawned on me, if my mom, she was doing this on a regular basis. If my mom's doing this, maybe there is a God. I think there is a God because my mom's calling out to God, and there probably must be a God because she keeps calling out to him. And then I was able to sleep because I was having a hard time sleeping because she's always making a lot of noise. But when I came to that conclusion as a young child that there was a God because my mother wouldn't be praying to nobody, that's when I, was able to sleep better. But as I grew older, Christianity, there comes a time when you mature where you have to, yes, I was raised a Christian, but do I actually still believe this? Do I want to believe this? Am I believing this just for traditional sake, just to keep, just to do what my mother did, or is there something real to this? And I came to this. I'm going to tell you about the crisis of faith, and when I came to that, and what was going on when I hit that point in my life. And I want to tell you what convinced me that there was a God, and that Jesus Christ really was real, and the God of the Bible was the real God. So let me put it this way. When I was growing up, I have narrow feet. Now, what do feet have to do with it? Just hang in there with me, okay? And back then, the only kind of tennis shoes that were out there mainly were these old tennis shoes that didn't have widths, width, didn't have a width. And my mom found this shoe, a tennis shoe, it was called Jack Purcell tennis shoe, and she could buy it in widths for me so that she could fit these shoes. They were the best tennis shoes she could find for my feet. And I wore these tennis shoes for years. Then all of a sudden, she couldn't get them anymore. I don't know whether they stopped carrying them. Of course, I don't think there was any online time at that time. The World Wide Web wasn't what it is today. And so she didn't have access. So I started getting some other shoes, and the problem was my feet started to hurt, and I was in a lot of pain. Well, to make a long story short, I remember getting to a church that believed in healing. They believed in word of knowledge, word of wisdom. I won't go into definitions of that right now. Let me just tell you that I was in a lot of pain. I was walking around, and one Saturday night I was lying in bed, And I said to the Lord, I said to the Lord, Lord, these people believe in divine healing. And unless you heal me tomorrow, I'm just not sure I can believe in this stuff anymore. I need some evidence that you exist, that you're real, that, I need more, and it was kind of like a crisis of faith. I remember crying myself to sleep because I told myself, that God better do something. And I was also almost apologizing to God, saying, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can do this anymore if you don't do something tomorrow. And so the next morning I woke up, it was Sunday morning. It was this small Pentecostal church that we'd gotten to. I won't go into the details of how we got there, but it was a small Pentecostal church. And I sat through the service and nothing happened. And I'm going, well, they had these windows around the outside of this small church. From the inside, you could roll the windows open and closed with kind of a rolling action, and then you flip the thing down to lock it. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to go through all these windows. I'm going to close them all. And when I get to the last one, I'm walking out of here. And I don't think I'll ever be back. Now, did I have the courage to actually walk away from the Lord? That's another topic. But I was about ready to just say, I just can't believe this anymore. So I'm going around. I think I get maybe the second or third window, and there's a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and this guy looks at me and says, the Lord spoke to me that there's something wrong with your feet. And I'm going to pray for you, and you're going to get healed. And I'm going, inside, I'm jumping up and down. I'm just going, wow, this is so cool. But on the outside, I'm maintaining a pretty, unemotional exterior as I look at this guy, and he asked me, can I pray for your feet? And so he reaches down. I said, sure. So he reaches down and he prays for my feet. I don't feel a thing. And he stands back up. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've been in a lot of pain with my feet. And I've been walking around. But I tried not to limp to show anybody that I was in pain. Did this guy just see me limping and he thought that maybe he should come over and pray for me? I was, was this really from the Lord? And so he stood up, and then he started asking me a few more questions. And he asked me, the next question he asked me was, he asked me a little bit about the church that I'd come from. And he asked me, you've been wanting to go back to that church and tell them about the things that you're experiencing here, haven't you? And I said yes, because that's exactly what I had been thinking. And so he said, well, the Lord said, go ahead. Something like that. And I just went, now how did he know that? Did my mother tell him? Did I even tell my mother that I was interested in doing that? How does he know that? So then he says to me, you've been wanting to get involved with sports, haven't you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, go ahead. It's okay. And I go, wait a second now. How did he know that? Because when you are raised in a religious background, sometimes you have these kind of strange ideas that certain things of the world, so to speak, are not godly and you shouldn't be doing them. And I was kind of like wrestling with, is sports okay or not okay, And when he said that, it was just like, wow. It's kind of a light bulb went on in me. And I said, there's just no way that he would know that about me. So at that point, I'd read through the Bible at that time, and I realized in the Old Testament there was you couldn't condemn anybody to death without two or at least three witnesses, and it's kind of a principle even in the New Testament that you need more than one witness. Well, to me, I had three witnesses there, because there's just no way that he could know all of that. So I said, this is God. There is a God. It's the God of the Bible. Okay, I'm in. And so I didn't walk out. Now, what happened with my feet is I had gotten some arch supports that I had inserted into my shoes, thinking that would help me. And I think they actually made things worse. So I said, well, if God's healed me, I took, I don't need these arch supports. So I threw away the arch supports and I got better shoes. And over time, my feet actually felt better. It took a while, but it's kind of like they, with the proper shoes and everything, and they healed. But it was never like I had some dramatic feeling on my feet or anything like that. And this man wanted to, he went out and he made a brochure with my picture on it, and he wanted to use my testimony as a means, I think, perhaps, of promoting his own ministry, so to speak. And I just, as much, because it was, God heals, in ways where my feeling was that God can heal over time and God can heal instantly. Either way, the hand of God is there. I mean, if your body is healing itself because you give it the right things to use in order to heal yourself, that's, to me, God gave you the body. He designed the body. So that's cool if that's the way the healing comes. Now, let me fast forward years and years later. I want to tell you something else about my feet. I was having another problem with one of my feet. I was in a lot of pain, and I've seen some of these healing evangelists on television, and people say, "Oh, I got this whole warmth all over my body, and I don't have the pain anymore." And you're kind of wondering, well, is that real? I thought in the back of my mind, is that real? So I was, so I had this pain. I was having a hard time going up and down the stairs of my home. And, excuse me, a little nose itch there. And so I was taking the train to Mountain View, and then from Mountain View I take a shuttle into Santa Clara to work. And the shuttle, when it came back from work to Mountain View train station, the schedule was that most of the time it was the train that I wanted to catch. You almost always had to get out of as soon as the shuttle arrived, you had to get out and run to your train station because it was either there or it was really close to being there. So there was one day where, here I am. I'm having a really hard time walking, and I have to help somebody up and down the stairs. I'm wondering, how am I going to do that if my foot is in such pain? And so, sure enough, the shuttle arrives late one day, and I have to run to the train. So I get out and I start running to the train, and I have this warmth that comes all over my foot. And my foot starts to curl to under, so it's hard to run. So I have this warmth, it's curling, it's hard to run. There's my train, and I'm looking up in heaven. I say, okay, nobody prayed for me. Is this what that warmth feels like that everybody's been talking about? And nobody's prayed for me. You're doing this, aren't you? And so I have to decide whether this is divine healing or not. Okay. So I didn't have, after that experience, it was so dramatic. It was hard to even remember how much pain I was in and where it was, because it was all gone. It was all gone. And nobody had prayed for me. So I think that I've experienced, a gradual healing in my feet and more of an instantaneous healing in one of my my foot. And so, it's like when that happened, I said, okay, I may when the first thing happened, and he prayed for me. It was like he was working in the word of knowledge, like God had spoken to him about me. He was working in divine healing, I suppose. Just praying for me and things like that. But for me, that was like a signpost, a signpost that was, yes, a signpost from God that He is alive, the God of the Bible is real, and pay attention. Now, did all of a sudden I have some great revelation? Did I understand the Bible? Did I understand what God was doing in my life? No, all I had was this signpost. So there was confusion about my life, about circumstances, about other things. That confusion didn't go away, but I had this signpost to hang on to look at and say, I may not understand everything that's going on in my life, but I do have this signpost, and I believe that God really moved in my life in this area. And so part of the reason for my blog is just to share the different signposts that have really been there for me, that have, it's the proof, the experiences that I've needed, and that to keep me, in the Christian faith, because it's not just do's and don'ts. It's not just it's not just church, and it's not just a religion. For me, Christianity had to be more of an experience where prove to me that you're real, and show me, please, if you're real or not. And so I would encourage you to lay down ask God to reveal Himself to you, and just be open to and pay attention to what's going on in your life, and perhaps some of the so-called coincidences that you've had in your life, they're not really just coincidence. It's not that you're just lucky, you're just blessed, whatever. If you really start reading the Bible, you might be able to put two and two together and relate what you're reading in the scriptures with what's going on in your life, and really see the hand of God in your life. But I would encourage you that may not take place unless you actually start reading the Bible for yourself. So I really encourage you to do that. This is probably the most dramatic thing that's ever happened in my life. It was at a pivotal point when I was ready to walk out, and that's what happened. So I've hung in there, and it's been a really interesting journey. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day. There's so much more I could say, but I'll put it into I have other signposts that I want to share, but that's enough for right now. God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.